Hey everyone, this is Gnobot, and today I wanted to bring you a Dracotail Dragonmaid deck profile. This is probably going to be the last video for Dracotail before Doom of Dimensions, whereas the next videos are going to be about Frixel, what it does for the deck, and I also want to see if we actually get the Magistos cards imported in Doom of Dimension. That is still a possibility. I hope they are, because otherwise it's just going to be Frixel lines, but whatever. This is Draco Tail Dragonmaid. Some people have asked for this, so I just sat down and made a list. This is going to be very standard Draco Tail with a small Dragonmaid engine, which can do a lot, but you can do a bit more Dragonmaid, but I'll talk about that later. So let's just hop into the profile and just rush through the Draco Tail names, because you know how it is. But I will note that in hybrid versions of Dragonmaid, you can even start considering cutting a Mululu, because you want to cut normal summons because you have Dragonmaids. And if you go more deep into the Dragonmaid engine, then you can even consider cutting down Lucius just to access it via engine. That is all up to you. But we also have one of the names. These are actually really good with the Dragonmaids, so I considered upping them. Like I had 2 pan, but I took it out for the last card in the deck that you'll see. But just note that these two have very good synergy with your Dragonmaids, because Dragonmaid Shu needs a Dragonmaid card and a level 5 or higher dragon monster, which both of these are. But the main synergy here is still going to be the G2 Dracotail. If you go second and you have a Dragonmaid and this in hand, you can just start your turn by going K2, grab Pan or Urgula, fuse it with a Dragonmaid, and then have a Omni Negate on the field while also triggering one of your Dracotail names. So I think you can get by with 1-1. Just note that if you have 5 mana and one of these and the Dragonmaid, you can do a lot of strong things. Then we have the 3 Rahu, of course, and we have one of each trap. Not too exciting here. Feel free to play around with the ratios that I mentioned just now. But for now, this is still mainly a Dracotail list, which I think is the better way to build it, because Dragonmaids are kind of normal summon reliant. Unless I find an engine, a build that goes more into the Dragonmaid stuff with Dragonmaid support card. But you already see we have 3 Parlor Dragonmaid. I think this is the best Dragonmaid normal summon for this version of the deck. And we run the corresponding dragon. And we also run the second name. I think if you want the minimal engine, then you go 3 of 1 with the corresponding big name, and you go 1 of the others. And I think these 2 are the best names. So one thing you could do, obviously, is you can switch this up. You can go 1, and then you go 3 of these with the new Chamber, but I think this is better. Like, Chamber is a really strong card, but again, it is good in more focused Dragonmaid builds. Whereas if you go second and you draw Lorpar actually has an effect, and that is that you can discard it, target a monster on the field, and neither player can activate that monster's effects. So if you go second, this is either a big dragon use, or you use it to disable one of the opponent's board pieces, which can be really strong. And then the chamber is here. But I'll show you a chamber line later too. Then we also play the changeover, and that is it for the Dragonmaid package. Now, if you go for the chamber package instead of the Parlor, you have to run the hospitality, but you can also run the tidying in that case. But we don't do that here. We just play these, and that is it for Dragonmaids in the main deck. And we have non-engine, Nibiru, Fua, Ash, Vader, which I'm still pretty iffy on. But so far it's been the slot. This could be Phantasme, to be honest. In this version especially, Phantasme is a dragon. So maybe you just want Phantasme in that slot. We play 2 Ghost Bell. I've took out the Ogre for Ghost Bells. I really like this card here, and it also frees up some extra deck, some side deck space, because I always had this in the side deck for the mirror. And we have 1 Magnamut. Now, I haven't been a believer of Magnamut in Dracotail, and in all other versions I'm still not a believer, but in this version this can actually search you a good card, and that is of course your Dragonmaids, right? So you go second, you have a Magnamut for whatever they have, and then you grab a starter, or you grab a Lorpar to disable one of the board pieces. So that is the non-engine, and this is a clean 40 because you want to see 5 mana. And for the extra deck, we have 3 Arthalion, of course, we have the 1 Gudamel that is standard, and for the Dragonmaid cards, we have 1 Shoe, and I am running 2 of the house just so that you can activate Shoe twice. You can cut this card down if you want to play something else. Like, I don't run Mysterion in this list, so if you miss Mysterion, just this is the cut. And we have one of the new Lady Dragonmaid, and that is such a powerful card. If you don't know what it does, is on summon. First, the summoning condition is you banish a Dragonmaid and the corresponding big dragon from the field and grave. So 1 from field, 1 from grave. Summon it. On summon, it specials a Dragonmaid from the deck. And in the standby phase, you can fusion summon a dragon monster, I believe. Yeah. By shuffling back cards from banished or from the field. So you'll see that in the combo. And speaking of, Philia Regis is mandatory in this list because this is your main go-to when going through this, if you already have the Shoe on the field. There's 2 different lines. One of them just has this on the field, and then you go for the Shoe. But if you have Shoe and you have Lady in the grave, you bring back Lady, and then Lady gets you the Philia Regis in addition, and that is really strong. Secretarian, this is very important here for the main line. I'm going to show you later, but also just a powerful card. So there's an option to run 2 of these. I play the Chaos because our Dragonmaids are all light. Now, of course, you won't fuse away the Shoe, but if you have the house lying around, this is not the strongest card here because we don't do that much bouncing. You can fuse this away, go into this, and pop 1 or 2 cards. Then we still have the Spirit with Eyes of Blue, still have the Seals. This is particularly important. If you only have Draco Tail engine, you can go Seals bound and just go into your Dragonmaids that way if you need. Or even better, you go into Magnamut so that you don't have the Dragonmaid on the field, and in the end phase you can grab a Dragonmaid for the follow-up. We have the Cross Sheep, of course, for pushbacks, but also this is again good to revive your Dragonmaids. And then we have the SP Little Knight just for utility. So that is the deck, and let's just jump into some combos. So let's start with the Parlor 1-card combo. This will not bridge you into Draco Tail unless you want to make Seals, which I don't recommend. But if you only have this and 4 hand traps, the board is still very formidable. So we normal summon the Parlor, send the corresponding big dragon, and then we'll fuse these 2 by banishing them into Lady. Lady can then special summon from the deck. Note that if they Ash or Imperm this, you can still, in your opponent's turn, make a Shoe. So that is still very efficient. But if this goes through, you get the Chamber. Chamber grabs you the Fusion. And since we have 4 hand traps in hand, we just go fuse these 2 into a Shoe. And we just pass with this. And in the opponent's standby phase, we can Shoe, summon back the Lady, which on summon will bring you out another Parlor, just to have it on the field. It's going to come up just in a second. And then you can use the standby phase effect of the Lady to fuse itself. That is important to recycle it. And the Lorpar, you also want to recycle this. Let's just put them by sides. And you go into a Philia Regis. So now you have the Omni Negate, you have a Banish, and this will also bounce the Parlor if you happen to banish a card on the field, which means you will have a follow-up in the next turn because we just recycled the Lorpar and the Lady. But also, if you happen to negate before you use Philia Regis, this goes back to the extra, you summon House, and then at any point you use this to banish, bounce, this will trigger House to pop a card from your opponent. So even though we don't get into the Draco Tail stuff, I think this is still the best line for this. You just play a Dragonmaid lineup here. But what happens if we have this combo and we have a Draco Tail name in hand? So we'll start the same and we go Parlor, send the lore power and banish both for our lady. And the lady will then get out a chamber, grabbing you the changeover. Now here you need to have any hand trap in your hand. Let's just grab a Veiler. And now, because you have the Dracotail name, you can go and activate the changeover, use these two, go into an Arthalion, where is he? And use Arthalion plus the Mululu, setting you a Kitu, and adding you back these two to hand. And now you will go and activate the changeover to get your chamber back in hand and get your changeover. Activate Kitu, you grab Urgula here, and you can go and use the changeover again, this time fusing the Urgula that you just added and the chamber that you just put back to hand. So even if they like nib you here, you still just fuse into the shoe. And now you have an Omni on the field, and you trigger your Urgula. The Urgula will then set you a Rahu, and you can use that Rahu to get rid of any card in your hand and dump a 5 mana to go into your Gulamel, triggering your 5 mana, setting you a trap, and then you can go and add back the 5 mana by using the Urgula. And now you have the shoe, you have the lady still on the field. So even if they end of main nib you, right, the shoe will go away, but you still have the lady on the field. So you just make the shoe again in the opponent's turn. Other than that, in the opponent's turn, you can use the shoe to bring back the chamber, and you can use this to shuffle these two and bring out your Philia Regis once again. And now what you have is you have the Dragonmaid stuff, but you also have, I mean, the Arthalion doesn't do anything, but you have the Gulamel and the Flame, plus you have 5 mana in hand. So what you can do here is you can use 5 mana to fuse the Arthalion with the chamber, for example, if you want, or with the house that you'll bring out later, to go into a Chaos and pop a card. So much more options with this line here if you have a Dracotail in your hand. So what if you want chamber as your normal summon here? So you play 3 chamber and 1 Parlor. I'll walk you through the line, but you will have to play 1 or 2 additional bricks in this deck to make this work. And also there's one thing at the line I don't like, but the line itself is stronger than the 1-card Parlor line. So you normal summon chamber, and this time you grab Hospitality. This is one of the cards that you have to play. And in a not dedicated Dragonmaid list, this is pretty much a brick, because if you don't see one of your Dragonmaids, which is not that likely because you only have 4, then this is not that easy to resolve. But for a chamber target, it's very good, because what we can do now is we link off chamber and we go into Spirit. And now we can activate the Hospitality, summoning back the chamber and sending the chamber into the grave. And now we have the small and the big dragon and can fuse them into Lady, which can then summon the other piece, and that would be Parlor. Parlor then sends you Tidying. In this case, if you don't have anything, or if you have a Dracotail name, you can send Changeover, bounce this, and then go into that. I'll get into that in a second. But if you don't have anything else, you have 4 hand traps, you just make seals here. And you pass on seals plus the Dragonmaid, and that is stronger than what we had before. So what we do now is we can fuse this into the shoe, and the shoe can then also revive the Parlor, and that sends you another card into the grave. But also we have the Tidying in grave now, so if anything happens to the shoe, we can bring it back. But let's rewind this a bit and go back to the spot where we had this and we had the lady. Now, if you have a Dracotail in your hand, you could, instead of the Tidying, send the changeover, bounce this, and now you have the changeover to fuse. But my issue here is, if I go fuse with this, I want to make Arthalion, right? But if I make Arthalion, then I can't make the Shu, and I just overextend into a Nibiru. I could make Arthalion here, grab things back, set myself a Rahu, and then I make Seals with the Arthalion. But I won't get this back again, so I would have to make the Shu in the opponent's turn. And I would have Seals plus Gulamel plus Trap plus Shu, which is good, but like compared to the other line, I think it is much more vulnerable. So I like the Parlor more, but I wanted to show off the chamber. Now, of course, you can also say, what if instead of the Parlor, for the 3-chamber version, you play a different Dragonmaid. I don't know which one it was, but one of them adds a card and then this card, so you could practically add this, but that might also just add a monster. So all in all, I think this line is better if you are on a dedicated Dragonmaid list, but if you are on a hybrid, which is the little Dragonmaid package, you want Parlor. So is this version one of the best Dracotail versions? I don't think it is. I think it is still a very good deck just because it's Dracotail, and the Dragonmaid engine is not inherently worse than all of the others. But you are adding a bunch of normal summons. So if you normal summon one of these, or if this even gets ogred, usually ogre is not really good against you, but if they ogre this, you're pretty sad. The Chamberlain actually, funny enough, doesn't lose to ogre because then you just don't go into spirit. But what the Dragonmaid version does well is it actually accesses powerful boss monsters much more easily. So like the end board, I think, is arguably the strongest Dracotail end board you could make, because you have the Omni, you have a recurable threat because you play the lady which shuffles itself back. You have Philia Regis, which is a very powerful card which other versions don't make as consistently. And for going second, while the normal summons are a detriment, the Lonsa is actually, Lonsa is the German name, Lorpa. The Lorpa is actually a useful piece, and if you draw any of these with a way to fuse, then they actually become good, because you can actually just go second with this in hand. You go Kitu, grab yourself one of these, whatever you want, to out a monster or a spell trap, and you just go into the Shu right away, triggering your pan, and that is powerful. So yeah, that is it for the Dragonmaid Dracotail version. Again, I have had comments for it, so I wanted to build a version. I hope this is good enough. If you want a more pure build of Dragonmaids with a little less Dracotail, more Dragonmaids, then I highly recommend joining the Dracotail Discord. There is a channel dedicated to this build, and someone in that channel is really dedicated to this deck, and I highly recommend talking to them. They're super nice and they are cooking every day. So that is it, and I'll see you next time.